Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Predicts A Christmas Carol. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the AQA specification for English Literature Paper 1, looking back at all of the papers that have been set since 2017, just to help give you a little bit of a steer in your revision. We'll look at sort of patterns and trends, what's come up, what hasn't, but do make sure that you are revising broadly and widely across character and theme. We don't have crystal balls, so no prediction video is a kind of fail-safe method of revising. But having said that, without further ado, let's get predicting. Okay, so last year we had stave 4. It was quite a tricky one, actually. The extract was one at the deathbed where Scrooge doesn't know that it's him lying in the bed. And then the question asked for you to look at Scrooge in the extract, but also lessons about life. So the actual question itself was quite nice, quite broad, because, you know, lessons, it's like change. But I know people didn't like that question massively. The previous 3 years have been based on stave 2, which is such a sign that exam boards are unpredictable. So as much as these videos are really, really interesting, you've got to remember that an exam board can choose any extract from any place, doesn't matter whether they've done it before or not. Having said that, I still can't help but notice stave 1 hasn't had massive coverage and stave 5 hasn't had massive coverage. So maybe it's worth just doing some practices there. So starting with stave 1, so what we've had is we've had Marley's ghost and how the ghosts are going to help Scrooge change his behaviour. And then in the specimen paper, we had like the really early bit about Scrooge, you know, the sort of solitary as an oyster section. That gives us quite a lot, because it means that you could get something from when he's at work with Bob Cratchit. You could get anything that focused on his sort of sense of unkindness, or maybe even things about sort of wealth and power, particularly if it was like the charity workers scene. edXL actually did a question on working life, and I wondered, you know, sometimes in exam boards sort of do similar things to each other, which is, you know, quite a tricky one. So that's possible. Setting also is something that a lot of exam boards like to do at various points, and that hasn't really come up here yet. And obviously when you're looking at setting, go with symbolism so much, and how setting reveals aspects of characterization. Like the weather is so important, you know, the kind of contrast between the cold and the warm and all of that sort of thing. So setting is actually quite nice when you think about it. Now stave 5 has never come up, and obviously there's a lot going on with that, and it is a much more, well, positive obviously, section of the text. So if stave 5 came up, then you might actually get something a little bit more on the kind of positive themes. So just as I said, stave 1 could give you something on unkindness, you know, you could get stave 5 and then look at the notion of kindness or benevolence or generosity, and that would give you room to look at how Scrooge is kind and generous at the end, but then look at examples of kindness and generosity from other characters, like Fred, for example, or Bob, you know. Christmas as a whole hasn't come up yet, like why is Christmas important? And that could sort of appear with pretty much any stave because it's Christmas the whole way through. And family might be another option, so looking at the roles of family, which again you could look at the relationship between Scrooge and Fred, Scrooge and his past, you know, his horrible father and his beloved sister, and of course you've got the Cratchits as well. Now I know that the Cratchit family have come up in 2017, but that was attached to struggles of the poor rather than the role of family. Again, just thinking about other exam boards, they've had children as a theme, which is quite tricky, and they've also had time, which, but I think you'd look at like how you'd look at the way that Scrooge develops over time and how different time periods reveal things about Scrooge's character. But you know, these are just some ideas to get you going. As always, I say it probably 3 times a video, make sure you're revising broadly and widely so that anything that comes up you will feel adequately prepared for. That's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you're finding these videos useful, then do subscribe, and then you'll see when all the other prediction videos come up for the text that you're studying. And do feel free to share with your buddies, because we're all in it together. Thanks so much for watching. Happy revising.